Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions with DrShiny. This is a monthly reading for June for Cancer, for the Cancer friends. So welcome. Hope you enjoy the reading. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started for you. Okay. All right. So for Cancer for June, your current situation is the Queen of Coins. And the Queen of Coins is a very nurturing energy. This is sometimes associated with pregnancy or motherhood, although perhaps not as much as the Empress. It's a similar energy, but also she's very good at saving up. She's good at making a wonderful, happy house and utilizing resources very effectively, and getting things done. She's a good gardener. She's really good at managing her finances and things like that. So this is current situation. This is either what you have been in or what you're kind of being required to come about with, and it's kind of like an opportunity for you to gain those nurturing skills or instincts a little bit more. Okay, so what we have crossing you is judgment. And so this means, you kind of know what the best way to go about this situation is, or you kind of know what you ought to do. But there is an element that comes from your past experiences that kind of has you taking a different path, or it's maybe interfering. So judgment differs from, let's say, like the justice card. Justice is all about logic and you know thinking things through. But when it comes to judgment, there's an additional element of um, bringing all of your past experiences into it. So it kind of, justice you might look at as math, whereas judgment is kind of more probability. So it uses math, but it kind of makes predictions based on what you've experienced before and those kind of things. So some other ways that this can apply to your situation is you are perhaps in a point where other people are being judgmental of you, or they are requiring you to take responsibility for a bunch of decisions and things like that, and it may be hard on you, right? So there's a couple ways that this card can apply to what's influencing you. For some of you, probably all of these things are applying, and for others, it's maybe more specific to one of these interpretations. But this is influencing or crossing you, right? Okay, so what you're moving away from, what you're leaving behind, is the Four of Swords in the reverse. Okay, so um, in the past, you may have been a little bit reluctant to take the rest that you needed to go on vacations, that kind of thing. You're moving away from that, so you perhaps are feeling the importance, especially moving into that Queen of Coins energy. You're looking at the importance of taking care of yourself, taking care of the home and everything, and kind of, realizing there is some futility in searching after purpose or some goal to too great of an extent. So even though that is worthwhile and that is part of life, if you get too involved in that and you don't take time to rest and appreciate the other aspects of life, it kind of defeats the purpose, and you end up feeling, depression and anxiety and those types of things. So you're a little bit more focused on your self care at this point, and that's a great thing. Okay, so you're moving toward the star. And this is wonderful. It's great that you're moving this way. The star is a very faithful person. In the artwork here, see if you can see, there is a little figure, and she's got two jugs. One of them has two jugs, not that kind of jugs. She has a moon and a sun on each one of her pitchers of water here, and she is pouring them out onto the water and the land. And you can't quite tell that she's pouring them into the water here, but these these pitchers vessels represent the conscious and the subconscious mind. So she's kind of giving up the mental conceptualization of the world around her, and she's replacing it with a fixation on this greater plan, this greater design of the world. And that's what the star represents. This is divine providence, this is divine guidance, and this is a trusting and sort of following your heart, instead of just relying on your mentality to work through things. Okay, so this is what you're moving toward. So it seems as though you're letting go of some control in the situation. You are taking a time to allow other people to fill in, to delegate, things like that. And you're taking a little bit more of a backseat role, which is giving you the opportunity to explore more what life is about for you and how you want to focus your efforts, what's important to you, that kind of thing. So, great transition for you here. And it may be that, like in the past, maybe you found yourself really prone to arguing about politics, but you're lately starting to see, well, maybe it's just kind of better if I just keep the peace, keep it to myself. People are going to argue, they always have. And maybe I'm just upsetting myself by being involved in those conversations more than anything, right? It's possible. But there's a time and a place for everything. But sometimes when we're involved in something for a really long time, it's time to shift gears. It's time to move on to something else. Okay, so the foundation of the situation kind of represents the lesson that the universe is trying to teach you, the sort of overall frame. What's bringing the situation about? What's life trying to say to you right now? Okay, and what you have is the Five of Cups. Okay, so Five of Cups. I don't know if you can see these cards really good, but in the Five of Cups here, little figure has 3 cups that are here spilled in front of him and 2 that are behind him that are upright, but he's not really looking at those. He's kind of only focused on the ones that are spilled, right? So this is a glass half empty mentality. This is somebody who is being hurt a little bit more by the losses than paying attention to and being grateful for the things that she has. Okay, so you want to, this being in your foundation, the situation is trying to teach you to focus on the things that you still have, that you appreciate. Part of that, or coming to grips with that, is recognizing that every loss is equally an opportunity of some kind, right? So, probably, one of the most devastating things that I ever went through was the death of one of my pets. And, he wasn't just a pet. He was probably the best friend that I ever had. And so it was very difficult for me. And at the same time, one of the ways I coped with that situation was that I made very, very sure that the entire situation, his death, his life, all of that, did not make me a worse person, but it made me a better person, right? So I found a way to channel what was happening, to channel, first of all, him no longer being in the situation, and my unwillingness to do things that used to give me joy and things like that. I channeled it into effort spent on making my life better, toward getting a new house and starting to raise a family, things like that. So you can channel what you still have, or the energy of what you lose, into what you still have. And it's a way of, if you lose a loved one, it can be a reminder of how fragile life can be and how much you really need to enjoy every moment that you have with your loved ones. Because if you take it for granted, before you know it, they're gone, right? So every loss is a blessing in disguise. And that's the whole message of this. And it doesn't mean, the blessing in disguise doesn't mean that those losses don't hurt or that you shouldn't mourn them. All of that's very natural. But what it does mean is that there is always a way for you to find the light in the situation and focus on that to carry you through, right? It's not going to make the pain better, but it may be the spark that kind of gets you through the situation, and your life can get better. You can grow from that as a result. What we have for your crowning thoughts is the Five of Swords in the reverse. So this kind of plays into what I'm seeing from the direction that you're headed. Instead of being a little bit more involved, you're and resistant to resting and backing out. Now you don't want to get involved in conflict too much. You're a little tired of it. You're kind of possibly withdrawing from it or realizing that there are more important things and perhaps craving more positive human attention rather than picking fights with people, that type of thing. So you're trying to avoid conflict a little bit more consciously here, one way or another. And so, it's understandable, and it probably has to do with the process of maturation. You're becoming a little bit more aware of the things that are important in life and the things that you want to pursue. You're not getting bent out of shape by little things as much. Okay. Okay. So your advice card is the Ace of Wands. All right. This is saying, try something new. There's an opportunity for some new action or endeavor. So take a little bit of the excess energy that you may be redirecting from some other place, arguments or something like that, and start some pet project. It doesn't have to be something, this is a learning thing. This is a childlike energy of starting something. So I'm not saying to immediately get back into this place where you're trying to master something or remain on top of it, but maybe try something that you're not really doing for any particular reason or purpose. My great aunt began painting when she was fairly later on in life, when she was fairly old. And it turned out that she was really, really good at it. But, at that point, she wasn't really painting to become some famous painter or something. She was really just doing it for fun, just because she enjoyed it. And it turned out she was really, really good at it and got quite a bit of enjoyment out of it. So, look at a situation like that where you can do something that's kind of more that you're doing it for the sake of doing it and not to get to any particular destination. And you can find quite a bit of enjoyment out of this type of action. It might also give you some more perspective on the way that you have been living your life, and the way you lived in the past, and show you or teach you what to look for when you're making your decisions and when you're interacting with people. A lot of times we kind of just take whatever we can get by default, but this is a way of showing you that sometimes, not everything that glitters is gold, and not every opportunity that people give you is really something that you should say yes to, because there are some things that mesh with your soul a little bit better than others. Okay. So for your environment card, there's this Ten of Swords in the reverse. Okay, so environment, this isn't necessarily or specifically talking about you, but it's somebody around you or your immediate environment, like your house or your workplace, or it can be more general, like just the society around you. But the idea here is when you look out at others, this is what you're seeing. And so there was quite a bit of doom and gloom, and everything seemed a little bit hopeless. But things are starting to kind of look up a little bit more. People are getting to be more optimistic, and they have a newfound sense of hope that's occurring in the situation around you. So this can be a good energy for you to sort of ride that wave. People, man, the last couple of years, people have been in a kind of chronically bad mood a lot of times, because things didn't seem to be going very well. But now things are starting to look up a little bit more around you. So, tap into that energy and kind of ride it forward. And that'd be a great way for you to take advantage of the situation. Okay, so your fears card, the Emperor. Okay, so the Emperor is all about authority, laws, very masculine energy. This can be somebody who's forceful, somebody who is um, who violates you, in your fears position. There's nothing intrinsically bad about the Emperor, but in your fears position, you're looking at the more negative aspects of this divine masculine archetype, which involve forcefulness and wanting to have it his way, and not being very willing to compromise. But also, there can be this overbearingness, or let's put it a little bit of a different way. It can be, your landlord. If you don't pay your rent, your landlord is going to kick you out, right? And so that's something to fear. If your teacher, if you're a kid in school and your teacher sees you do something wrong, they'll punish you. So that's a masculine application of force that gets you to fulfill some standards, right? So that's the idea here. So you may be afraid that you're not going to live up to certain standards, or you're not going to make it. You're not going to have what's required for you to stay in your current position. Whether it be money to pay the rent and the bills, or stuff like that. But this is kind of what's, I don't want to say holding you back, but what's in the back of your mind, kind of nagging at you a little bit, is this fear of this authority that comes down on you, Okay, so what we have for your overall message, long-term outcome, or just a summary of what's going on here. You have this Three of Coins. Okay, so this is an unwillingness to collaborate with others. You're kind of over it. You're over being too involved with other people, and you're ready to sort of kind of go off on your own, internalize, or be your own boss in a way. You're getting sick of having to deal with people. And even though there has been a positive shift in mentalities with people, that sometimes can give you some perspective, because it's like you thought it was bad when it was really bad, and then it still feels bad when it's good. So it's sometimes you kind of just see, well, geez, the only way I'm going to be happy is if I'm really just kind of working for myself or doing my own thing. So that could be what's going on here, where you're just not really wanting to collaborate with a lot of people, and or possibly you're wanting to have the position of authority. And that's something I should mention here, because in another way of thinking about your fears, we said your fear was the Emperor. Um, I didn't think about it till I looked at that Three of Coins, but one way that this could apply to your fears is that you might be afraid to take this role. You might not have an exceptional amount of confidence to where you're willing to step up and lead others, or to step above the rest, right? To kind of clear your head, to take a higher plane. You may be comfortable with being a subordinate, but a little bit hesitant when it comes to leading others. And so you could have this fear of leadership, and that's another way that could apply to your fears. But some people also call the fears card the hopes card, right? And I like that. I don't typically, because it seems to make more sense to think about it from the perspective of fears. But there is a school of thought that behind every single one of your fears lies one of your wildest dreams, right? So that's a pretty cool idea, and it is something that I think about from time to time. But the things that you're afraid of are really, it's unknowns, right? But a lot of times those unknowns are so stimulating. They create this fear within you, this feeling that's tangible, because you're simply feeling that joy in the opposite. If you get what I'm saying, you're feeling it from the negative side. But if it has that capacity to make you feel that way in a negative, then if you're able to change your perspective to where you see it as a positive, you'll feel it that much more positive than you would. So, in other words, the opposite of like hate is not love. The opposite of hate or love is indifference, right? You're not affected by it. But on the other hand, if you're greatly stimulated by something, then the only thing that you really need to change is the way that it's stimulating you. Is it really bad? And can you start to see it in another way where it's really good? But it's unlikely that something is going to go from like really bad to just not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? So, in other words, and I keep saying in other words, um, there is an opportunity for you to explore some new delight behind every fear that you have. So that could be masking something that you really need to try to embrace in your life in the masculine energy. Okay, I think that does it for today. Thank you for watching, and please leave me some comments and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys next week or next month for your next reading. All right, bye-bye. Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. Hello and welcome